Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. I want to remind you we're all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, of course, our official website is StephenKnightShow.com. We have just a few more hot topics. All right, so over last week, a six-year-old was reportedly kicked out of a daycare for wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt. The six-year-old, his name was Journey Brockman, had apparently been attending his kids' preschool in Arkansas in the past 6 months. On Friday, however, his mother was told that he was no longer welcome at the school because he had on the shirt, pretty much. And she said that she felt like it wasn't a thing that really related to him because he was such a kid. You know what I mean? But it was something that happens in our lives every day. Do you think the school had the right, Ms. Parker, to put him out for being too political, or what are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, regardless of what their rules and regulations are, I think the Black Lives Movement is bigger than that. So you're either with equality or you're not. So that's why I'm saying black people need to be in the mindset of how do we take our power back? Okay, so this happens to you as a community. What do? You report it as she did. You talk about it. But then every Black family in that school removed their kid. That's the kind of power that we need to exercise as Black people. I'm so sick of talking about things. It's like, okay, this business does not support Black people as a whole. So every Black person who does business at this business need to stick together and remove their children and move on and give their money to institutions that are supportive of us in the fight that we're in gaining equality and justice. And I think that's just how we need to take a look at it. I think going through whether or not their regulations are, within play, is it fair? No, you either support the movement or you're not. All those gray areas doesn't matter. And if you don't support the movement, we need to move as a force. We need to be united in the way we move through this. And I think that's what frustrates me. It's like, okay, we can talk about that, and I think it's good. I'm all about talking through things, but what are we doing? In this case, what do you do as a community? How do you show this? How do you make them feel it? Yeah. It's about coming together and saying, okay, every Black parent is going to, no matter how inconvenient it is, we're going to all remove our kids from the school.
Nair.
Well, what is your question?
The question is, do you feel like the school were they right for trying to keep it not political by not having the 6-year-old wear the shirt, or were they right in taking that stance?
I can't answer if they were right or not. I don't know anything about the school. I don't know anything about the school's policies. So I can't speak to that. Do I think they removed the kid, correct? They kicked this kid out?
Yeah, they put a kid out.
They put him out for the day, or they put him out?
He's put him out.
I can speak to that. Do I think that was the best action to take? Probably not. Right or wrong, I don't know, because I don't know anything about this history of this school's policies. I don't know anything about the history with this student and so forth. Not to say that, it would still make me decide whether it was right or wrong. I don't know if I can ever speak to that. But I don't think that was just hearing about that doesn't sound like the most progressive action to take towards any student during such a time. If it would have been a white student or another European style of a student that would have worn that shirt, would they have gotten the same treatment? We don't know. And I still wouldn't think that would be the most progressive action to remove a student from a school during such times that we're in, pandemic and all that we're going through with the Black Lives movement and just everything. I don't think that would be the most progressive action.
No, I agree. I think it could have been a conversation with the parents. I understand if they want to keep what they call politics outside the school, but I think removing the child from the school, that shows a bigger message of what they stand for, as opposed to
me, it's black or white.
Yeah, yeah. So
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but they just show a bigger message. It could have been handled the way every other thing is handled when a kid is being, maybe misbehaving in school. You have a conversation, you send an email home, you do whatever. But to automatically remove a kid from the school, that sends a message that,
Yeah.
That what this shirt or this symbol stands for, we don't stand for.
And to piggyback off what she's saying, because we don't know the history, and I'm not saying I'm for this, I'm just saying because we don't know the history of that relationship, of those conversations, maybe this was the last straw. Who knows? Even still, if it was the last straw, I don't feel this would have been the most appropriate time
Yeah.
to remove the student.
I mean, you have to be very sensitive in this time, that we're in now.
Right.
And so I think actions speak louder than words. And I
Right.
think that their actions spoke.
They've clearly identified that they are not an ally to the times in the movement. They've clearly identified that. So
yeah. All right, well, our very last topic. Everyone's been talking about this over the weekend. August Alsina, he had an interview with Angela Lee from the Breakfast Club, and he said that him and Jada Pinkett Smith had a long relationship together, both sexual and whatever relationship. And he said that Will Smith gave him the blessing to have this relationship. Since then, Jada and Will have both come out and said this is not true. I know, Ms. Parker, we talked about this on Friday. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
I think that I try to stay out of people's personal lives, but I think that the reaction of the community, the reaction of people that I've seen on social media, I think a little bit not surprised me, but I was a little taken aback by it, because for me, Will and Jada being swingers or having an alternative lifestyle as far as it comes to relationships and their sexual relationship or intimate relationships doesn't matter to me. I know people who live alternative lifestyles, and that's choice that people have as adults, right? There are billions of people on this earth. There's no way one sexual way of being is meant for everyone. It's just ridiculous, and that people would think that. Mm-hmm. But I also, what in this whole conversation, I think we're missing and totally overlooking. I hate to be so serious about things, but I think that we take everything as a joke, and it's somehow just it rubs me the wrong way. In the whole conversation, there's always been rumor that August and Jada were together, so that wasn't a surprise. Yeah. I heard that for years. But what surprised me in the overall conversation was watching his interview. This man has been going through so much trauma since he was a kid. He's watched his brother died, his sister died. He was sexually abused as a child. He was pimped out as a young man in New Orleans. He is a bisexual man, which he's admitted. He's been through a lot of childhood trauma and young adulthood trauma. Instead of us focusing on that and saying, okay, well, as a community, how was Jada's decision to move forward with somebody who was so broken and obviously was looking for a family connection? I don't think he messed with her because she was Jada. I think he was looking for that sense of family that they have. The Smiths have a family unit that is strong, that is very, they have a really loving bond, it seems, no matter how weird you may feel it is. For somebody who never had that, that's something that you would run into. So I think the deeper issue is Jada being who she claims to be. I think a lot of times how we see ourselves and who we want to be is a progression, it's a work in progress, right? So whoever I see myself as, I'm getting there. And so some of my actions it's going to be more reflective of the old person that I'm trying to relieve myself of, and not so reflective of the new person that I am growing to be. And so, but her, I think in this conversation that she's going to have for herself is needed. Because I think sometimes we have to look into the mirror and have a conversation and see the reflection of who we're being. But I also think that it's going to be important that she comes out and then not only acknowledge this young man, but acknowledge his pain. Because I think that when you feel like, you have some emotional tie to someone and there is not an acknowledgement of maybe something they've done wrong, no acknowledgement of loving you back or something, is more damaging. So I think this is going to be her opportunity for her to show us who she's being, show us her growth, show us her healing, and be honest about it. Because I think that, you know, a lot of times people say things they want to stay face. I think she and Will are determined to make sure that their sexual and intimate lives and the way they live their lives is not a secret, but it's private, and they're entitled to that. But you're not private people. You're people who put yourselves out there, and you're in the public eye, you know. So if you put yourself out there, of course, I wouldn't suggest that we put everybody on a pedestal who put themselves on it. But I also think too, you have a greater responsibility of living within your truth if you put yourself out there like that. So anyways, that's just my thing. So I'm hoping that her conversation adds value to a bigger issue than just whether or not you sleep with him. Because I think that's a tired conversation. I think that's tired. I think I'm over it. I think I don't care. I hope that it adds value to the whole conversation, a bigger conversation of who we're being, how do we help each other heal, what decisions do we make? Do we make decisions out of pain, out of love? Those conversations, I think this is a learning moment for her. This is the moment for her to really use the red table to be what it's supposed to be, which is a healing space.
Mm-hmm. So now Jada, after her and Will denied it, August Alsina made a very lengthy post saying that he has no reason to lie about this, and that he told Will and Jada up front before he came out publicly about it. Jada has since said that there's a lot of healing that needs to be done, and it's time to return to her red table, as Ms. Parker said, it's her show. What do you think that she's going to, do you think the show, well, what do you think she's going to address when they come back to the show?
I think she will address the issue with a very broad brush. Not that there's an issue, but this thing with a very broad brush. I watched that entire interview, and before I watched it, I didn't care anything about it. I don't care much about other people's lives, but not in that way. But I was seeing comments that someone had made about two people that I actually thought were pretty enlightened in a certain sense. They made statements that August Alsina should be stoned and this and that. And I'm thinking, whoa, what?
Right.
It was a comment like he should be stoned and then his dead body should be stoned again the next day. And it was like,
what? It was.
So I was like, what? Who? Why would someone wish that on someone? Yeah. So let me see what everyone's talking about. And then I watched the entire thing. I didn't see a goddamn problem with anything that he shared or said. I saw a man that is a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma, a lot of experience. Didn't sense anything that would call for me saying this man should be stoned and be stoned to death, stoned after he's dead. Again, I think she'll address it very broadly. I'm not clear of what happened. I knew that there was some speculation years ago about Jada and him, and I remember the name Koren being used specifically, and I thought that's too much of a coincidence for it not to be something. Still didn't really care so much, but now it's come to this where people are saying that they were able to decide to derive from this that he had sex with her or sexual relations with her, which even with me, I didn't quite get that. I got that they had a special relationship, her, him, and Will, and the family. They had a very special dynamic relationship. And I heard him say that he got the blessing from Will, but it was not a romantic. It wasn't for romantic. It wasn't a romantic thing that was supposed to have been taking place there. I don't even know if that occurred, but that's what I heard. I heard that he said it was a blessing for them to build a relationship together, but not romantically. This is what I heard. And I'm one of those people who hears things a lot of times differently. Sometimes I hear the one thing that makes it different. Sometimes I don't. But this is important for me. If someone's truth,
that broke my heart.
Yeah, you have to substantiate. You have to allow that person to substantiate that with that fact that it is their truth and it's, to a certain extent. You don't have to accept it for all of the truth, but you do have to give people that. And if that is what he qualifies as truth, then what can I do but accept it? And I have no criticism for him, nor Jada, nor Will. No criticism.
Imagine being in that much pain. If you read this man's story, And I've had nothing but the most. Every time I hear him speak, all I hear is his pain. And I've seen a few of his videos. But imagine gaining up the courage. You know, every now and then he gains up the courage to say things about his life and share these things and share as much pain as he's been in and share his stories. Imagine gaining up the courage to share that, and you think it's going to be a time and a space for you to heal. And then you go online and people are saying you should have been quiet. You are the reason that women don't have side pieces, and making the conversation so unimportant and so tabloid.
So vitriol and yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is like your deepest. You know what I mean? It's just.
And mind you, he's almost 20 years younger than them. Yeah. So the relationship could have been even more impactful to him than it was to them, as an older married couple. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just sad, but I hope there is some healing that takes place. You know, for his,
most definitely
raising his sister and his brother's children. And so, the more he healed, the more that he can raise children that are going to grow up to be healed adults and not have to go through as much trauma, hopefully, as he has experienced.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like we'll learn a lot more about this story, but for now we're gonna wrap it up. Ms. Park, we'll see you in our healing space. Well, Mental Health Mondays.
I feel like this was the healing space conversation.
And Nair, we'll see you next week. Have a great week, and we'll talk next Monday.
Bye, guys.
All right. Right back after this.